Hello and welcome to the last testing notebook for Jerez. Day 4 has finished. The final day of testing has just finished, and the big story today is that Red Bull went home early due to a mechanical fault with the car. So basically what has happened with Red Bull is that they've had problems all week, and they just haven't fixed them, and they found issues with the car, and they just thought it was best just to forget about Jerez and just go home. I have things. Christian Horner said it's been a very difficult test for them. They have had issues with the chassis and the cooling of the car. However, from the data that they have so far, it seems that the data they have so far from what they've run, the limited run that they've only done 20 laps over 4 days, is that it looks good so far. So the signs look positive for the future for Red Bull. That's what Christian Horner is saying. They found a mechanical issue and said that they won't be able to fix it in time for the afternoon. They found it in the morning, and they weren't able to fix it for the rest of the day. So therefore, they decided to stop running. So Daniel Ricciardo only did 7 laps today, I believe. I'll look at that, and again, I've got it all written down in my notebook. But what I find very interesting is going back through the history of Formula One. Renault have had a strong history of building turbos compared to their rivals, compared to Ferrari, who built their first turbo back in 1981, and Mercedes, they haven't even, they weren't even around to build a turbo engine. So, but Renault were there, back in the 70s and 80s as well, building turbo engines for the turbo era back in the 80s. So you'd think that Renault, there seems to be a lot of problems with the actual Renault engine itself and the Renault package. Which is surprising because it was just a little statistic. They've obviously, I'm not saying that Renault have got it unbelievably wrong. Caterham did a lot of decent running today, but Toro Rosso and Red Bull have just been no-shows basically in this testing session so far this year. But to be fair, they're looking at the problem though. I think it's just a design issue problem for Red Bull. If you think about it, we all know Adrian Newey likes to have a very tight car. Everything has to be fit in precisely to the way he wants to build the car. And considering that Christian Horner touched on cooling issues, and with the turbos, the kitting up to 1,000 centigrades degrees, you'd think that maybe the cooling issue, there's just not enough space. The car's just too compact, so I have a hunch that it might be a design problem. Hence why they've gone home early. Hence why they say it's a mechanical issue. I think, and they say they're going to change it, and hopefully, I'm not saying that what I just said is correct. They're going to investigate in it, obviously, but that is what my hunch is at the moment. Because it seems right. It seems an Adrian Newey car. We all know how he doesn't even give enough space for the driver's hands to move. He was the first person to had that, so there's cuts in the chassis so they can move their hands just to be so more aerodynamic. So it wouldn't surprise me if there is a bit of a design issue with the car for the cooling. Hence why they've been unable to get any laps done because of any cooling issues. I think that's been the main problem for Red Bull. Ricciardo says that things are okay and that it's not time to panic, which is correct. It's not the time for panic for Red Bull. But that Red Bull is just weird. Only complete 20 laps so far in testing. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks and see what they do for Bahrain. But looking at today, then it was more wet running basically. Or the rain gods were back down in Jerez today for the final day. There were 3 red flags, one for Sutil going in. It all happened in the afternoon. There was no red flags in the morning session, which was a surprise because there's normally always red flags in testing. But it all came towards the last couple of hours, to be fair. One was for Sutil going into the gravel trap, and 2 for Kevin Magnussen. 1 for spinning off the circuit in that was his first one. He spun off the circuit, and his second one he spun again, but this time he crashed into the barrier, breaking the front wing of the car and that was the last 10 minutes of the session. So therefore, the session finished 10 minutes early basically because there was no time to clear the car in time and get the track ready to go again. So just looking at Toro Rosso quickly, Kvyat stopped on track at the same time as well. Toro Rosso had problems. They tried fixing it and they sent him out again. At the same time, Magnussen crashed, and he also stopped on track at the same time Magnussen did when he caused the third with 10 minutes to go. And Toro Rosso only completed 7 laps in the morning, and then they had their problem which they tried fixing. They got Kvyat out towards the end to do another lap, and Kvyat stopped, so obviously the problem's not fixed. For however many hours Toro Rosso spent on trying to fix the car. So basically the 2 Red Bull teams, because Toro Rosso is a sister team of Red Bull, are not doing too good at the moment. But if you're a Formula 1 fan and if you were at Jerez today, good for you, because today was mileage, you could say. Felipe Massa was faster today in the Williams, doing a 1 minute 29.0. He completed 79 laps, Fernando Alonso was second with 1 minute 29.1. He did 114 laps. So Ferrari, they're doing a lot of laps there. And then John Cardler in the Force India, I don't think I said that right, but he's a reserve driver for Force India. He was third with a 1 minute 30.1, doing 76 laps again. Kevin Magnussen was fourth with 1 minute 30.8. He did 108 laps. Hamilton took over in the afternoon from Nico Rosberg. He did a 1 minute 30.8 and did 39 laps in total. Jules Bianchi and Marussia was sixth with a 1:35.2, did 25 laps. Satil was a 1 minute 36.5, and he did 69 laps today. Rosberg did a lot of laps as well again today. He did 91 laps, did a race simulation today for Mercedes, and his fastest lap time is during the wet, and it was a 1 minute 36.9. Kamui Kobayashi was in ninth with a 1 minute 45.1. He did 54 laps, and then Kvyat was 10th with 1 minute 44.0, doing 9 laps in total, and Ricciardo rounding up the field with a 1 minute 45.3 his time, and only completing 7 laps. Mercedes in total, if I just add up, they did the most laps today because they had Hamilton and Rosberg out today. They did 130 laps in total, so 16 more laps than Ferrari. But give credit to Ferrari, that's a lot. So their package must be pretty reliable at the moment. They must be getting a real hold of it at the moment. And Toro Rosso, their problems though, going back to Toro Rosso quickly, seem very similar to what Red Bull, from speaking to from hearing a few engineers what they had to say in interviews. It's just software problems and installation problems. So that's what they just, the system checks and the installation, just telemetry, it's just not working. They just have not found, it's just not working. It's virtually the same as Red Bull. Red Bull seem to have found something more serious wrong with their car. Toro Rosso not so yet, but that seems to be the problem with Toro Rosso, and that is really all that's left for me to say. I'm running out of time. So today was a good day if you were at the if you went to Jerez. I'm not saying that any of you were listening to this were at Jerez today, but to get a lot of mileage done, probably got your money's worth, because going to testing is quite cheap. Sadly, there's none in the UK, so I can't go to any of those, and it'd be cheaper for me. But overall, it was a good day testing, and we'll have to see what happens for Red Bull over the next 2 weeks to see if they sort out any of their problems heading towards Bahrain for the next test session. So basically, this is all that's left for me to say now. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, favourite, and subscribe to F1 Breakdown. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We've been doing testing updates throughout the whole 4 days, and pictures and all sorts over the test sessions. We'll be doing the same for Bahrain. So please remember to like, favourite, and subscribe, and we'll see you again in Bahrain. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.